You know, when I was a young man, I was in a military school band, an orchestra as you were. And I've got to tell you, without a conductor, we were hopeless. But I'm here tonight with someone who works with an orchestra that's unique because it has no conductor. Meet Everett Donner with the new Century Chamber Orchestra.
Hello there.
I mean, how do you all keep, how do you keep the rhythm going?
It's a remarkable thing. We rely on tremendously trained musicians that have dedicated their life to performing music in a whole variety of different ways. And we come together with a remarkable leader, and we rehearse a lot. And I think those right there, along with a great love and passion for the work that we do, leads to some tremendous performances.
I mean, I've heard New Century Chamber Orchestra, and the music is beautiful and passionate. But I mean, sometimes, someone's passion might be 3 beats faster than someone else's. I mean, are there ever any almost, oh my goodness, half the French horns are going that way and the flutes are going that way?
There can be lots of them. And if you take a regular symphony orchestra, they rehearse maybe 3 or 4 times before they present a concert to the public. And we rehearse anywhere between 7 and 9 times, which is a lot when you compare it to groups like the San Francisco Symphony or the opera. But that pays off in spontaneity, in a level of preparedness that is a little bit hard to find, and really the results are remarkable if you've ever heard a concert.
Yeah, I mean, you really need to know your music.
You absolutely do. You need to learn your music, and more so, without a conductor there in front of you, the musicians in the orchestra need to watch each other, and they need to listen to each other in a way much more sensitively than you might find in other ensembles. Mm-hmm. The name of the group is the New Century Chamber Orchestra, and I want to emphasize the last 2 words of that chamber orchestra. The word chamber implies a bit of a smaller ensemble. And
I mean, how many members are we talking about?
We're talking about 19 members usually. Occasionally we'll use more when we have certain works that call for more members, but the core is 19 string players.
Versus a typical orchestra would be?
A full symphony orchestra would be approaching about 100 musicians. A typical chamber orchestra can range anywhere from 15 to about 45.
Right. So the other thing about having such a small group of intimate musicians around is there's probably a lot more personalities. I mean, in a 100-piece symphony orchestra, I'm not going to know maybe that flautist or that violinist or that French hornist or that bassoonist. But I imagine that each of these 19 people has kind of a strong personality, both musically and personally, within the ensemble.
They absolutely do, and I think actually that's one of the assets that our group has. Everyone has a voice and a philosophy, I guess, that they bring to the music, and that's a part of the reason why we have so many rehearsals, is that everyone, unlike many groups, everyone gets a say as to how to interpret a piece of music that we're preparing for a concert. If you have an ensemble with a conductor, one of the benefits of a conductor is that he or she can say, this is how we're doing it. One of the downsides is that you don't get a chance to try new approaches, new interpretations of a phrase, and that is what New Century, with enough time and enough humoring of personalities, can make for some tremendous things.
Yeah, that sounds like musical diplomacy. So, a symphony orchestra, in one sense, is a dictatorship. So is the New Century Chamber Orchestra, is it musical anarchy or musical communism?
I would say it's neither, actually. Everyone has a voice, but we are led at the moment by a dynamic violinist, really one of the best of her time. Her name is Nadja Salerno-Sonnenberg. She has been a performer since she was 20 years old, a professional one, and has come through, really has been at the forefront of the violin world for quite some time. And we began a search for a new music director about 6 years ago, and we're absolutely blessed and gobsmacked to be able to get a musician of such caliber. And she's wonderful at allowing a free flow of discussion and of ideas, and then ultimately, when everyone has had their say, deciding what to do and then implementing it in a way that allows the rehearsal process to go forward and for a very finished and dramatic performance to be delivered.
Right. So for those people who haven't had the pleasure of hearing the New Century Chamber Orchestra, tell us a little bit about the history, how it came to be, and why the name.
Sure. Well, we were founded in 1992 by Bay Area musicians who wanted to have a music-making experience that was different than what they were experiencing. And they wanted something that was conductorless, where they could have a say, as I said a moment ago, in how musical decisions were made. And very shortly after forming, they recruited the then just former concertmaster of the San Francisco Symphony, a man by the name of Stuart Kanan, to lead the ensemble. And it was he that began building the musicians. Many of the musicians early on were recent graduates of the conservatory here in San Francisco, were crackerjack musicians in their own right. And after a very slow start, we established a regular concert season and have really continued to grow year after year since that time.
Right. What is the personality of the orchestra?
Of the orchestra, it is a group...
And you know what I mean, just the personality of a performance, but also within those 19 people. Is there a tone to what you do more than just the incredible expertise of the music?
What we strive for is a performance that transcends notes on a page and really is vibrant in a way that you don't often encounter. And part of the way we express that is the amount of rehearsing that I've talked about a couple of times here. We really try and go very deeply into the music and try and make music that keeps musicians and audience members alike on the edge of their seats with anticipation, with excitement, with unusual twists and turns. So I think that's an aspect of the personality. Another one is that of our music director, Nadja, who pulls the musicians along and goads performances out of each of our musicians that really is remarkable and sometimes goes beyond what they thought they could do themselves.
Right. Now, you have a regular season all over the Bay Area, correct?
We do.
And you've got some performances coming up in November and then again in March of next year. Tell us about those performances.
Sure.
What are we going to hear and where are we going to hear them? November
is an interesting concert because, first off, we are featuring a world premiere of a work by a noted American composer, Michael Dougherty. It's a violin concerto that we commissioned called Falling Water, and it's based on some of the imagery and architecture of Frank Lloyd Wright.
Exactly. One of his most famous designs, residential home.
Exactly, that's right. So we're very excited about that. That piece, along with a few others on that concert, will actually be released as a part of a CD that will come out in May of 2014. Featuring concertos that we have commissioned while Nadja has been our music director.
Mm-hmm.
So we're...
Yeah, you mentioned something that leads me to my next question, which is, where can we hear you if we don't hear a live performance? I mean, you know, one of the things that keeps symphonies in people's minds and, you know, keeps them famous is the ability to record and win awards.
Well, we can be heard on iTunes. If you search iTunes, you'll find a number of our recordings. Our website at ncco.org features a number of links to ways that you can purchase CDs that we've produced. We're also heard very frequently on American Public Media's Performance Today, which is a syndicated radio show broadcasting major selections of classical music from orchestras around the country, really.
Yeah, and in our last few moments, talk to me about your musicianship. You're a French horn player, correct?
I'm a French horn player, but my role here with the orchestra is to support them, to produce the concerts, to run tours, to make the trains run on time is really how I like to say it.
You're never hoping that the French hornist and the orchestra like breaks a finger or something?
I have played with them, but I think my talents are better used with making other things happen and making sure they have what they need.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for being with us.
Thank
We've been speaking with Everett Donner of the new Century Chamber Orchestra. I'm David Perry. Thanks for listening and watching, and we'll see you next week on 10%.